we'll just talk and see if any of this is useful to you. Norma Shearer was an actress from a suburb of Montreal. She was born in 1902, and her family went broke right after World War I. She was from a fairly prosperous family, and so they sold the family piano, and her and her sister and her mother all went to New York hoping to become actresses. And the sister wasn't that interested, and the mother, I think, was interested, but nobody was interested in her. But Norma Shearer was interested, and she pounded the pavements, for 2 or 3 years. Eventually got jobs in low-budget films and New York films. Very few of those survived, maybe 1 or 2, and they don't look very good. She was eventually brought out to Hollywood in 1923 by Irving Thalberg, who was a fan. He just liked her. And she gradually grew in stardom, but from a pretty early time. She made a movie called Broadway After Dark in 1924 with a great director named Montebello, who we will not be able to get into, but he's a genius, or at least close. And then she was a star, certainly, by the first MGM picture, He Who Gets Slapped. And so she was, in the 20s, she was the #1 leading lady at MGM throughout the silent era until maybe you get to Garbo right at the end of the silent era, who kind of moved ahead. And she played women who were she went from playing sweet ingenues to playing average American women, working women, women who are in the world. But she didn't play particularly sexually adventurous women until she got to the talkies. But that was what she wanted. So her, I said earlier, the whole silent era is just her trying very hard to move in the direction of complexity, and she eventually gets there at the beginning of the talkie era. But she was very popular. When Thalberg married her, she was big. She was making more money than he. She was making more money than Thalberg if you don't count his stock options. But his stock options were enormous.
Okay. So, yes?
It's five.
Okay.
Tell us about how Miriam Hopkins could play all types of women and the sorts of boundaries that she could cross and yet still maintain believability.
Miriam Hopkins was one of the most versatile actresses of the period. She could play anything. She could play a floozy. She could play a dance hall club owner. She could play a Southern belle. She could play a sophisticate. She could play an artist. She could play everything, and she could do it convincingly and with a lot of wit and vivaciousness and charm. She's I think the unknown delight of the pre-Code era.
You want to talk about her in Jekyll and Mr. Jekyll, Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde?
Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. What could we say about her in Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde? I mean, everybody loves.
Obvious,
yeah. I mean, Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. She's
Did you say that she was she was somewhere voted the sexiest woman in a horror film?
No. That's not quite right. And no, just there was a guy who took a survey of critics, and she's, years later, Miriam Hopkins in Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde is still everybody's favorite horror movie heroine. And she is because she's so vulnerable, and she's so pretty, and she's so fun, and she doesn't deserve what happens to her. But also because she does that striptease, and that's also very, very, very warming.
Let's see. Next one I have here is tell us about Mae West. What impression did she make on audiences with her first starring vehicle? She Done Him Wrong. Kind of.
Yeah, we covered.
Yeah.
I mean, everybody liked Mae West. She could get away with things because she was funny. I mean, that's the bottom line.
Barbara Stanwyck, fighter. How in virtually all of her films she has one scene in which she explodes.
Barbara Stanwyck, in almost every one of her movies, has some moment where she erupts into crying, screaming, drool-spraying, spitting, crazy, insane rage, always at some guy. And what Barbara Stanwyck played in these movies were women with their back to the wall and with absolutely nothing to fall back on but an adamant sense of self. And that was Stanwyck. And Stanwyck could be nasty Stanwyck could be angry without being nasty. She didn't have that nastiness that Crawford had, because you always felt that when she got angry, it was costing her something.
Okay. What about Stanwyck in Babyface?
Stanwyck and Babyface is pre-code 101. If you want to get somebody to like pre-code movies, you show them Babyface, you hook them, and then you can get them, onto to other things. It is, it's a completely wonderfully sleazy movie where Barbara Stanwyck plays a woman who comes from a very bad background, as in the fact that her father is her pimp. I mean, how bad, how bad can it get? And she just, sleeps her way to the top of an office building and, to a penthouse apartment and a pile of jewels. She's completely cold-blooded, and she's a lot of fun. That's the movie that turns people onto pre-code more than any other movie. And then after that, then you can get into the subtleties. But you have to start with something as crude and vulgar and wonderfully ridiculous as Babyface.
Is there anything, and Babyface may not be the one, but you talk about films in which, even though the actress may not be honest, or she may kill somebody or something like that, the audience sympathy stays with her.
Yeah. Yeah, they're all like that.
If you wanted it, then why does the audience sympathy stay with Stanwyck and Babyface? What do we like about her? Well,
probably for the same reason we like Richard III. No matter how many times she lies to other people, she never lies to us. We always know what she's after. We know why she's after it. We know how hard it's been for her, and so we root for her. But that's a normal thing. But as far But as far as the other thing, the other point you're talking about, we root for the women. So the audience, it's strange. Audience sympathy was always for the woman, no matter what. And it doesn't even sometimes matter if we know why they're doing what they're doing. I mean, if you look at Ladies They Talk About, Barbara Stanwyck starts off the movie robbing a bank. And we don't know why she's robbing the bank. We don't even know anything about her background. We know that her father was a deacon, and she says, was it that it took all the deaconing? Well, no, too much deaconing took all the sweetness out of me, is what she says. Well, we don't know anything about her. All we know is this lady's robbing a bank, and we're rooting for her. And we root for them no matter what. They kill people, we root for them. The movies are so on the woman's side. In a movie called Wonder Bar, Dolores Del Rio kills her dance partner on the dance floor, and he manages to stagger off. They put him in the trunk of a suicidal guy's car because they know he's going to drive off a cliff. The moral climate of this movie is not that anybody's going to save this guy from driving off a cliff. They just want to get Dolores Del Rio off because she's a beautiful woman who committed murder. I don't think a single murderess, I may be wrong, but I don't think a single murderess in the pre-code era actually went to jail.
How about Ruth Chatterton, do we say the mature pre-code woman?
Yeah, Ruth Chatterton was pushing 40 when she was making most of these movies, and a lot of these women weren't even 30. So she was in not quite a different generation.
What could she bring to the movies that other actresses didn't? Well,
in female, she plays an auto magnate. You can believe that she's an auto magnate because she's a woman in her late 30s, and she just has the gravity and the brains and the force to bring that off. You believe that she's running a company. I wouldn't believe, as wonderful as she was, that Loretta Young or Jean Harlow or somebody was running an auto company, but you'd certainly believe that Ruth Chatterton can do it. So she brought something. Ruth Chatterton. Ruth Chatterton was mannered. There's no question about it. And when we see Ruth Chatterton today, she could put us off. She has an English accent. She's not even English. Chatterton herself was put off by her own mannerisms and said she didn't like to watch herself because of her own mannerisms. But there is an intelligence there, and there's a force there that is it's very strong and it's very appealing.